and you don't want to see yourself as you really are. Did you see that? The hardest thing for us to admit is how sorry we are, for lack of a better term, or how selfish we are, or how mean we can be. So when we see those things, especially people close to us, because see, if you really think about us being reflective of each other, right, from a holographic nature, when you look at that, and then you look at the whole concept of what it means to hate. The reason someone hates you is because it's supposed to force you to dig deeper inside of you to see the thing that you need to deal with. And the thing that you need to deal with is the thing that has brought about the hate in the, towards you. So it is your problem, not theirs.
These family members you speak about that, I guess, doing things you don't like, or you mad about it. Are they showing your limits? Is that what they're showing, the limits of what you can be?
They're showing the spectrum of what you can be.
Okay.
Think about it this way. We say it all the time. The reason y'all can't get along is because you're just alike.
You say, yes.
Do we not say that?
Yeah.
All the time. So we do recognize it, but we get to a point that is okay as long as it's something acceptable to us. But when it's something that is unacceptable by us as well as society, then all of a sudden it's not that we are alike, it's that they're so different than me because I would never do that. Maybe you have not done it yet, but it's in you.
Yeah.
You thought it.
Yeah, and it's still possible. If you were put in the same exact situation and were brought up in the same exact conditions or went through the same exact thing that person went through, you are definitely capable of doing the same things that you were looking down upon.
Right. And all the time, Sheldon, the circumstances don't necessarily have to be exactly the same. Mm-hmm. Just present it with circumstances that will bring that out of you. Because if say for example, if I saw someone, a stranger, take advantage of Betty, I respond to that. And that brought something out of me that would bring out of Larry something totally different. If he saw somebody, heard somebody say something to somebody, that may bring the same response out to him. So it takes sometimes different stimuli to bring it out, but it's still there.
And I was even thinking about it could be a situation where, let's say for example, I was judging you and saying that there's no way possible that I would do something that you did, and me not being aware of the things that drove you to that point. Yeah. And I could be looking down upon you, and it could actually take less than what you went through to drive me to the same exact point. We
have a tendency to look at ourselves through rose-colored glasses, but look at everyone else through glass stained, stained glasses. We can see every little stain in everyone else, but in ourselves, we see it, but we say, I would never do that, or that's not me, or that's just a one-time occurrence. When in actuality, it really represents the depth of who we are. So the whole concept of forgiveness becomes of paramount importance, because the concept of forgiveness is the first concept that we encountered from the beginning. It was twofold: mercy and forgiveness. So the Creator had mercy on us, so He forgave us for our walking away. You see, for our choosing to go in a different direction than the direction that he had in mind for us. And we have not lost that. We have not lost that to this day. If our children or our friends go in a direction that we don't think they should go in, we are upset with them. So we have a choice now. And the choice is to express that mercy and forgiveness and move on, or the choice is to hold it against them and make them suffer as a result of it. Think about it. But that's who we are. And in my life, I have chosen to just let it go, to recognize that people are who they are in terms of believing that they are so individualistic until they don't have an effect on other people. They believe that to the extent that they feel like they can do what they want to do with impunity. So I just let it go, rather than judge them and begin to deal with them on the basis of their shortcomings. I deal with them on the basis of their potential. Because everyone has the potential to do the right thing, but we rather deal with people based on the potential to do the wrong thing. Because it's more comfortable for us to do that. It's like I was speaking with someone on yesterday, and as he and I were talking, I said to him that if you really think about, as long as you have known me, what I have made every effort to do is to allow people to go their own way and always be there for them if they need me, but never there to try to force them to be what I see that they ought to be, because that might not be what they need to be at that particular time. Does that make sense? So, because if I were to take you and try to push you along the direction that I think you should be going, then I have become your creator, because now I am creating you into the image that I think you ought to reflect, as opposed to stepping back and allowing you to create yourself, thank you, into the image that you feel like you're supposed to be molded in. And when you find a rough place or hit a rough bump along the way, then rather than you're being ashamed to come to me because of how I pointed out your shortcomings, you're comfortable to come to me and say, can you help me? So, and that's the kind of thing that we must always do, because keep the hope is say that let go of the bank of the river, because you will surely drown trying to hold on to the brushes along the bank of the river. And just let go of it and flow with the river. Well, if you choose not to let go of it and you try to hold on to the bank of the river, meaning that you're trying to hold on to those things that make you feel good, that make you look good, that you think is going to move you to a place of acceptability in the eyes of other people, then I have to continue my journey. But guess what? I am so ubiquitous in nature until though my journey has carried me much further than where you are on the bank of that river, when you begin to drown and cry out for help, I am still there with you. And I have the ability to save you. Can you see that?
Yes.
Because regardless of where you go on your journey, you're still ubiquitous. You never leave the ones who you are responsible for. If you're responsible, if you're responsible to, not for, you're responsible for yourself. If I'm responsible to you for being your covering, it doesn't matter where you stop on that river, I'm still there. And though you stop at the river, at this point of the river, which they call it Hopkins, and Janice stopped at the point of the river called Sumter, but I am in Buford. But though I'm there, the ubiquitous nature of my being is well aware of what's happening both at Hopkins, at Buford, and everywhere in between. So when the cry comes, not only do I hear it, but I'm able to respond to it. So it's not like when Jesus talks about leaving the 99 to go after the one, it's not a physical thing. It really isn't. Because if the 99 are with me, then they are very well protected. So when I reach back or reach over to get the one at Hopkins and the one at Buford, now I haven't truly left the 99 in terms of turning my back on them. What I have done is shifted my focus to the two who needs me. Because the 99 are still with me. They're not going anyplace.
Isn't that one but many?
Yes, and that's exactly what it is, the Elohim. So the whole conceptual attitude of that makes it different. We are at a new gateway of being now. And I think it's more reflective here than we know of, Jane. The whole 1111 gateway. I think that the whole concept of the 1111 is representative of the 111 is above, the other 11 is below. You see that?
Say again?
11 above, below.
Okay.
You know, so they are the same. Now, I think that we have a tremendous burden that has recently been laid upon our shoulders. And the burden that has been laid upon our shoulders is for us to get beyond talking about as above, so is below. And begin reflecting it. Not being in the upper world as we are below, but being below as we are in the upper world. We are in this world, but we're not of this world. Is that not the scripture?
Yes.
So when we reflect anything below, when we reflect anything in this world, when we reflect anything in this earth consciousness, it has to be the reflection that we have to bring forth or to manifest is the reflection that we are above. Can you see that? Does that need any more explanation? Yes.
I want to make sure we're on the same page. So you're saying that we need to be aware that nothing is separate. Everything is one.
That's part of it. But the bigger part of what I'm saying is this.
Okay.
Even if you're aware of that, it doesn't mean that you're going to reflect it. You see, you can be aware that there is someone greater than us. You can be aware that there is a galactic alignment that's taking place right now. Mm-hmm. You can be very much aware of that, but how you respond to it does not necessarily mean it's in a manner that's going to enhance the whole of mankind. You can respond to it academically, and nothing changes. You see?
Yes.
So when I talk about manifesting it, this is what I'm saying. And it may sound, did you have your hand up, darling? Okay. It may sound real crazy, but when I say reflective of it, I'm going to tell you a story, then I'm going to give you what I'm talking about. There is written in some of the material we've been reading, I believe it's the Divine Matrix, I'm not sure, where this guy, these people went to this monastery for this person to pray for them, this monk to pray for them. And when they got, it's on the floor, baby. And when they got to the monastery, they walked in and the monk was in deep meditation. And they did not want to disturb him. So they left and went out into the courtyard. And when they got out to the courtyard, the monk was in the courtyard healing all the people who had come to be healed. Then they went back into the monastery because they thought they just had seen him, and he was still there in deep meditation. So him sitting there in deep meditation was below. Him being out in that courtyard was above. So he was in the earth reflective of what is above. Can you see that? Yes. Now, there are those who would say that that is holographic. I beg to differ. And the reason I beg to differ is because we take projections from visual equipment and call it holographic because it's, you can put your hand through it. It's just out there in the floor, right? I call it a projection or continuum from the origin. Holographic to me is more reflective of the whole of mankind as opposed to one man being projected. And the reason I say that is because if this envelope was holographic, or if it had upon it a holographic picture, right? Regardless of how many small pieces we cut it in, each small piece would have the whole hologram on it, would it not? That to me is holographic. The person who is projected in the courtyard, as I described, is a continuum of what he is in the earth. Meaning that there is a stream of light that projects from him to where he needs to be. And he is still connected to this body. But his the projection of him is out here. The real him is being reflected there. And the reason it takes on the shape and the image of the body is so those who are searching for him can recognize what they're looking for. Does that make sense? So I differ with those who call that holographic, because if it were indeed holographic, then each snippet of him should represent all of us. But it represents him. So it's a projection of that particular portion of the hologram. Can you see that? Yes. Now, when I say that we must get to the place where we are benefactors of that kind of reflection, as above, so is below, we are at a place now where we have the opportunity to do just that. And it's funny because last night I was going through this in my head, my heart or me or wherever, it was flowing someplace. And as I was thinking about it, the phone rang. And when the phone rang, it was Carla. And she had just left Monica, who had done polarity on her, which is balancing energy in her body for some things that she's dealing with. And she said to me that, after, of course, I asked her, how did it go? She said that I felt as though I was above my body, and I was moving, like sitting up and laying, head rocking back, the body up and down. And she said that Monica opened her eye, which she normally doesn't do, because she felt her doing the same thing, but that's not what she saw. She wasn't. But when everything was over with, her demeanor, her physical state, her emotional state, everything about her was different. So that says to me, the amount of activity that was taking place in that body in terms of energy flows and noise could not be settled in that earthly vessel. It had to be carried into another dimension, and that thus the of body, for lack of a better term, experience. That's where everything was settled. And when the calmness came there and she settled back down into her body, that's when everything ended. You see where I'm coming from? So those are the things that we must indeed begin to make preparation for in terms of experiences. Things are happening extremely rapid, more rapid than ever before. There are apertures of light that are being projected into the earth. I believe this, and please help me with this if you will. I believe that the solar flares from the sun are not designed to have an adverse effect. But I do believe that they are purposed to remind us of who we are. And by that I mean that when the solar flares come from the sun, they create a huge electromagnetic field, do they not? Mm-hmm. We are energy. That's who we are. We are representative of small electromagnetic fields, but to combine, we are it. Now, suppose for a moment that the reminder of who we are is designed for us to wake us up, like the flare shaking us to the reality of who we are. And if you can accept that you are the very thing that's waking you up, and you can not only absorb it, but not absorb it, let's say accept it, that this is the very thing who wakes you up. If you accept that, then why is it that you cannot project solar flares to mankind so mankind can be awakened? And I use that term solar flares because it's the energy that we're talking about. Can you see that? Now, you say wake up. Tell me this. How many of you have been awakened in the morning without a clock? So what is it that wakes you up? So what wakes you up? What is it that we don't know, do we?
Your intention to get up at that time.
Your energy wakes you up, is energy. That's what wakes you up, right? So what's the difference between the flares from the solar flares waking us up? When I say us, I don't mean our bodies. I'm talking about the spiritual us, the real us, waking us up not from a sleep, but waking us up to a realization that we are asleep. Can you see that? Does that make sense? Now, see, if we were put to sleep and didn't wake up, which we were in Genesis, and a deep sleep fell upon the man, and it doesn't say he woke up. If we were put to sleep, right, then there is something there, the energy to wake us up, to make us aware of who we are. It has to be our intention to be awakened. We recognize the need to be awakened by virtue of the shaking. But the actual awaken is because of our desire to be awakened. See, we look at what is transpiring in this country in terms of the strange weather patterns. We see for example, what causes it? What causes these heat waves? Do you have any idea? Drought. See, if the land is dry and the heat, the sun begins to shine with a great intensity, there is no moisture in the ground for the heat to draw it out to cool the air. So, hence, you have hotter weather. But if you, it is said that you can tell whether it's going to be a really, really hot, wet summer based upon the amount of rain that falls between April and June. If the amount of rain that falls between April and June is minimal, it is not enough moisture in the earth to cool the air. Therefore, you're going to have droughts and high temperatures. But if there's enough moisture in the ground to cool the air, then when the sun gets hot, it draws it up, and that's what cools the air. Can you see that? Now, having said that, we look at that in the Midwest, we look at that on the East Coast, we look at that in America. We're not talking about the floods in China, the floods in Russia. We're not talking about the weather conditions around the world. If you have watched, I doubt very seriously, the golf tournament that's in Europe this week, there have not been high winds, there have not been rain, and that's part of the golf course. That part of the challenges, the inclement weather, they've had none. So
it's been cool all summer over there. Like they pretty much every day is the 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And raining like cats and dogs and friends. Yeah. So when we look at those things, we are beginning to see a pattern. And you say, well, that's Mother Nature. Okay, well, who's Mother Nature? Who is she? Is actually reflective of our thoughts. That's what determines the weather. The weather patterns are just as confused and as detrimental as the way we think. So when we began to purpose our hearts to be one with our Father who created us, it is at that point that we began to see a tremendous shift. Now, that doesn't happen by us continuously talking about it here or any place else for that matter. At some point, the talk has to convert into action. It doesn't say, as a man speaketh in his heart, so is he, as he thinks in his heart. Because your thoughts is what leads to action, is it not? So, what kind of actions do we need to be involved in? I went to the bathroom and got this discussion.
I'm sorry, what?
Well, I got this discussion while I went to the bathroom.
Charlie?
Don't get coffee no more on the drive here. Just
of actions should we be involved in?
I take it back to what some kind of thought should we be involved in.
Yeah.
Actions. How should we be thinking? And if we're not thinking that way, why are we not? Children's got a hand. Oh!
I think because of distractions, because of all the distractions that we have.
I ain't know how far come back in here now. It's great. What you come up with?
We didn't want to talk about actions, we wanted to talk about thoughts.
Okay.
What kind of thoughts we should be having?
Certainly not the kind we've been having, right? What are thoughts?
Thoughts or intentions and desires of the heart.
So what are they?
What are they?
That's
Where do
what
they
we
come
are.
from?
I'll be saying that I'll share my thoughts in regards to what we're talking about now, the weather. And funny to say, Mother Nature is reflective of our thoughts. And my wife hears me complain about it all the time. But in regards to the weather, it's funny you say that. I had thought in my mind when you asked, well, what's Mother Nature? I was thinking a bulldozer knocking down all these trees in order to develop all these stores that we really don't need. You know, it kind of bothered me. Like even in the Northeast area, we cleared all those acres for the sake of putting up a cheesecake factory, right? You know, and a shopping center to compete with another shopping center 5 miles down the road. And, you know, I guess my thoughts are always just recognizing how our actions affect everything, and so that we have thoughts of capitalism that's making it harder because we're always tearing down exactly what's balancing out the energy from the sun. And so now we're creating almost like a mirror or a stovetop, so to speak, that's causing it to be harder, like you said. I never thought about it in terms of drought, but I mean, it makes sense now that you say that. And you know, I don't know if tying myself to a tree is going to do anything. You know, becoming some kind of tree hugger or something like that. I just know the thoughts I have when it comes to that subject, at least. And it's like just the pursuit of capital, the pursuit of material, and just things that we use that provide temporary pleasures and unnecessary burdens, I should say. And it's all, you know, it's just like a deeper hole we just continue to dig, and yet nobody recognizes it. Nobody says, wait a minute, I don't think we need all of this.
Manifest destiny.
Yeah. Continue moving westward and leaving behind desolation behind us and not thinking about it until I guess we run out.
Well,
And we want to move to the moon or something.
we already want to do that.
Yeah.
Think about it this way. When not only do we talk about Mother Nature, we talk about Mother Earth without realizing how real that is. It says, Yahweh Elohim took dust from the ground and formed Adam. The Lord God took dust from the ground and formed Adam. The Lord God took dust from Adama. That's ground in the Hebrew. That's the feminine for ground. And formed Adam, masculine. So when we talk about Mother Earth, the ground is feminine. So we're destroying Mother Earth. Got it? But that is reflective of a whole culture of development that seeks, if not to destroy, at the very least, to minimize femininity, period.
Because it's all based upon controlling and taking without regard for that which you were taken from, but that which you were taken from is still where you came from.
Right. And that in itself is self-hatred. See, if you destroy everything on the earth, you destroy yourself. Because there's no effort. When you destroy the Amazon forest, you're destroying weather patterns. Right? And you cannot replace that. Right? So you are destroying the potential for reproduction, right? Come on.
Yes.
And if you are destroying the potential for reproduction for the purposes of greed, right? Then what you're actually doing from a financial and spiritual sense is committing homosexuality. Because there is no reproduction. You can't reproduce anything. Can you see that? So this whole concept of homosexuality and greed and destruction of Mother Nature, all these things work together. And this is no stretch of the imagination. This is real. Think about what we're saying here. How do we manifest this whole concept of being who we are supposed to be as opposed to continuously talking about not only what's wrong, not only what is, not only what should be, but bringing about what should be. How do we do that? How do we bring into fruition what should be?
It goes back to the question, what action should we take? And then we said, well, if it's rooted in thought, you asked what thought was. And thought, thinking is to image something. It's energy, but it's to image what it is we want to manifest. And so we haven't, I think somebody back here said something that part of the problem is being distracted. Other things come across that take our focus off of imaging that which we want to manifest.
So, the objective then, Barbara, would the objective be?
We also create the distractions.
What?
Don't we also create the distractions?
Yeah, and that one worse than that, Diane. We have created the distractions to the extent that we don't realize we have. We think they just pop up, come out of nowhere. We are so comfortable with them, we're so familiar with them, until we don't see ourselves as having created them. We always blame someone else. If the phone had not ring, if the doorbell had not ring, if the child had not cried. Now, you heard what I said, right? How do you justify that with the understanding that we have what we desire? I desire for the phone not to ring. I desire that the child will not cry. You see? So at some point, we have to accept responsibility for all those things that we blame on other people. Once we embrace that, then we're at a place where we can let our desires be known in terms of rebuffing those contradictions that we admit that we created. And then it would be like, I need to get to this meeting, so I don't want the lights to catch me, and you make every light.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
You see what I'm talking about?
I just wanted to say one thing with the desire. Don't desire the thing, the part to not, but desire the part that you wish it to be. So just like with the phone and the baby, you desire quiet. So don't say like,
The baby not cry.
Yeah, not cry. That makes any sense?
Janice and I were talking earlier in the week, and one of the things we were talking about was coming together to make our desires known. And I feel very strongly that the teachers have to come together very soon to make our desires known. It's one thing for Barbara to talk about desire, or, you know, for Jamil, for Janice, or anyone else to talk about desire. It's easy. But when we come together in one place, it makes a difference. You remember the story where it talks about these people came together in this city, and their desire was for the crime rate to go down? Mm-hmm. And it happened. But their desire was to test it, so to go down overnight. After they did it, it came back up. Our desire must be different. Can you see that? And one of the things that we saw, that Janice pointed out to me, is that a lot of the things that must be desired were here on 1111 that we came up with. It's a matter of wording them in the way that you projected, Sheldon, not what we don't want to happen, but what we desire to happen. I believe that there has to be, and I'm going to get back to the other thing in a minute about how we manifest this, there has to be a twofold effort. I believe that what's about to happen in this country with mankind in November has to be influenced by us very strongly, very soon. I believe that. This is not about Obama winning the election and Romney not.
No.
It does not matter who wins. What the desire must be is what's going to benefit mankind. Can you see that? And giving universal health care to mankind in this country is not necessarily beneficial. That's for the Creator to determine. It might be beneficial for folk to die because they don't have it. That might be the thing to force them to turn the brush loose on the banks of the river and go where the river takes them. You see? So it's not for us to shape that, but it's for us to desire that. Are you with me? The other thing I see, and I'm with you, Sheldon, is that on the 21st of December, there has to be major desires centered in one place, coming from a group of people, not scattered. Let me show you what I'm saying. If shots are being fired from different places that are spaced apart and a great deal apart, then they are seen as individual shots, and they may not have an effect, right? But if you have all of us in one place and a volley of rounds are being fired at the same time, then they have a greater opportunity not only to hit the target, but to destroy the target. Can you see that? So we need to come together so that we can amplify, not push, not absorb, but amplify all the light available so that it can become what it has been designed to become.
What's the significance of December 21st?
December 21st, 2012 is the end time for the Mayan calendar. And there are those who believe that that's when the world is going to end, which is not true. It's a reset that's taking place. And the reset means that we have an opportunity to see tremendous improvement in man's consciousness, or an opportunity to see man retrogress and be worse than what he is now. The calendars are so specific until the time has been set at 11:11 a.m. on GMT on the 21st of December. GMT is Greenwich Means Time. And Greenwich Means Time, I think it's 4 hours different than Eastern Standard Time. So that would be 7:11 Eastern Standard Time on the 21st of December. That's in AM. So we would have to be in the same place at that time in order to do what I'm talking about. Is that clear enough, Diane?
Yeah.
Okay. I know you knew, but
Yeah.
it was for the, yeah. Okay.
Now, when you explain it.
So what?
That's the part I'm on.
Huh?
When you were breaking down the time.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Okay, isn't the 21st hour day year in America is already in the 21st someplace else? So that's why I'm trying to figure out which.
The time zones with Mayans and us are pretty much the same.
Okay.
Yeah. But they did it on GMT because of the way the time zones have been set up since then. Okay. So it would be virtually exactly the same time.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. What? 5 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
In my Eastern Standard Time is -5. But the other thing was when you talk about
No, say it all together so everybody know I was wrong. I want to correct you.
Tell them, Joe.
yeah, as far as the GMT is concerned, we're at -5.
Okay.
So it's 5.
It's 5 hours.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, but I'm not sure as far as daylight savings is concerned because the daylight savings changes at different times.
Right.
All right.
And our intent is most important anyway.
Yes.
So.
Now, further, just to add one thing where you were talking about as far as the election is concerned, and you were talking about the well-being of mankind being the chief point of desire. That goes into direct opposition of the concept of God bless America. Because God bless America at the expense of all mankind that exists out of the United States. And I just thought that needed to be said, and if you want to expound upon that, you can.
Of course. What's being said is Elohim. Elohim embrace America. So, in essence, what's being said is bless us regardless of all the BS that we have done and all the chaos that we have perpetuated around the world. You are with us. So, if God is with America, regardless of what America is doing and has done, then that cannot be the God of the Scriptures.
But is there not now a movement, Sheldon, that says bring God back to America? It's been recent. I think I see that now. That bring God back.
And the movement that says bring God back to America is the same movement that says take our country back from the color boy.
Because
So, you see,
the whole concept is
it's racist.
It's in direct opposition of everyone else around the world. So it's as if, like on a material plane, God bless us at the expense of others. We're going back and talking about capitalism and things like that. Or you look at places like what Chevron has done in South America, things like that.
So it's when the whole idea of God bless America is exclusive of everyone else and inclusive of everything we have done right or wrong. It just does not matter.
Yeah.
It just does not matter. So you're asking God to bless the country whose people stole everything from the folk and caused them to lose their homes, lose their jobs, but we're asking God to bless that. You see, that's the misnomer there. So we have to not so much be condemnatory of that as be reflective of what should be done. Let me show you what I'm saying. The scripture says that For he came into the world not to condemn the world, but that the world through him may be saved. So just because they say God bless America doesn't mean that we know they're wrong and we want America to be condemned. We want America to be delivered just like everything else because it is a part of mankind. You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
So it's not a single you out and beat you over the head with a mallet because you've been so mean to us. It's the idea of recognizing the fallacy of your ways and the ignorance of your not nomenclature, what's the other word? Your cliches, the ignorance of your cliches. And so that we can bring some semblance of truth and enlightenment, not just to this country, but to the world at large. Okay?
Allegiance is a cliche.
Now, yeah, you're right, Jesus is a cliche. Now, yeah, that's why the guy, the black guy, you don't care what nobody say, that black dude who is the president of the Southern Baptist is an effort to recruit. Because the Southern Baptist are losing members, so now they're trying to recruit some of us to justify what they're doing. But anyway, the manifestation that I want to talk about is how do we do that? How do we manifest ourselves or manifest in such a manner that we become the continuum of who we are in terms of projections? How do we do that? They're in Eastern Europe during World War II was a priest, and he said to the village, all the villages around us will be destroyed but not ours. And the bombers came in, and every village was destroyed except theirs. And when they landed the planes, the bombardiers said, and the pilot said what they saw was this man, huge man, in front of them. And it frightened them. And they did not, but they could not release the bombers. But this man was in the temple. So there again, it's a projection. How did he do that? How did he do that? The main reason that we cannot do that is because we seek to do things to see if it's going to work. I mean, be real.
And immediately, if you're seeking something to see if it's going to work, you automatically, by just the essence of it, don't believe wholeheartedly in it anyway. So you're not making that thing take place. You're trying to see if it will take place. So there's automatically doubt there.
So you do it with one over. It's there yet. You know? But that's the same manner in which we pray. Everything that we petition or that we seek from the other realm, we do it not with expectation, but we do it with anticipation as to whether or not it's going to work. We're trying to see if it's going to work. Got it? If I were to tell you, go to the ATM and withdraw $10, you have the pen, you have the card. There's no doubt that you're going to get that money, right? But then you go there, it's out of order. But still, you know that there's a possibility that it's going to be out of order. Yeah, don't you? But you never go there with it in your mind that it's out of order. Ever. You always go there with it in your mind, I don't get this money. Suppose for a moment that we could approach the manifestation of the essence of our being with the same faith. Look at what could happen. Let me show you something. Last week, we talked about the woman with the issue of blood for a moment, didn't we?
I wouldn't.
Week before last. I wasn't in
Okay.
Week before last.
Okay.
Okay, we talked about for a moment the woman with the issue of blood, right?
Right.
And the woman, the Bible says that she touched the hem of his garment. And her first thought was, if I could touch the hem of the garment, I would be made whole. She touched the hem of the garment, and then he says, woman, thy faith has made you whole. Right? Mm-hmm. The thing that she had before she touched the garment is what made her whole. Jesus did not heal her. There is absolutely nothing in that scripture that would indicate that Jesus healed that woman. If she had not possessed the tool before she touched, it would not have happened. She couldn't touch and then trust it. She had to trust it and then touch. And then she got the results. Which means that before she touched it, she already had the results. It just not had manifested in the earth. Can you see that? She was already delivered before she touched, because he said, it is your faith that has made you whole. If the faith is what made her whole, she was made whole from the moment she pronounced, if I can touch the hem of his garment, I will be made whole. You see that?
With that thought.
That thought. That thought that she had was not a fleeting thought. That thought that she had did not come because somebody preached to her and Clark and having a conversation. That thought came as a result of her realizing that there is absolutely nothing else left for me to do. Now keep this in mind. We hear people always talking about, you try all these other things, why not try Jesus? Don't we hear that? The reason nothing works for you is because you tried everything except Jesus. Am I right? If that case is true, then why is it that this woman had not only tried everything else, but she had spent all her money on everything else, and then she came to that point? Now, soon as you get broke, you want to come to church. Long as you had something that you could give to us to help us buy a bus and some land we don't need, you didn't show up. But now that you don't have anything, here you come. Therefore, since your child died, it gonna cost you $1,000 to use the church. Is that not what we hear? Yeah. Come on now, y'all know it's the truth. Yeah. So you say, how does that relate? What he was saying is this: it matters not to whom you have gone prior to your coming here. It matters not what you have or don't have. It doesn't matter if you have taken everything you could beg, borrow, and steal and invested it in some other method of being delivered. That doesn't matter. What matters is if all of that served to bring you to a place in your life where you trust that just touching can make you whole, then that's all you need to be made whole. That's a powerful statement. Understand this. She did not touch the word, the concepts, the understanding. She didn't touch that. She had none of that. She didn't know what she was doing. She heard about this word. these ideas, these thoughts, these concepts. That's what she heard. She touched the outer peripheral of them. In other words, if you were to say, communion go heal me, and somebody gave you grape juice, and you believed in communion that was going to heal you, that's enough to do it. Without any concept of what communion means, of the idea of wine, of the esoteric of it, you don't need any of that. What you actually touched was the concept itself without realizing what you touched. And what did that was the depth of your desire, the depth of your trust. Your trust was impregnated with a desire that was so deep and so strong until it was not going to let go regardless of what happened. How do you know that someone touched you? Virtue left me. This is about knowing that energy, that enlightenment, that purity left your body, is feeling a draw on you. Do we not talk about that? He felt something drawn from him. That's what this is talking about. So the way we manifest it is by living our total lives with a desire to be a manifestation of who we are in the upper world. Can you see that? To be a manifestation of who we are in the upper world. Every time I doubt anything, I impede that effort. Every time I put something off on blame somebody else, every time I talk about somebody else's shortcomings, every time I deal with things that are not enhancing, I impede that. Can you see that?
Well, it's like when you're trying, you're dreaming and you want to wake up and you think you have woken up. Because I've actually thought I've sat up in the bed, looked around, and realized I was still asleep. And so I try again to wake up. It may take a couple of times, but eventually I'll get back to my body, so to speak, and I can fully wake up.
I do understand where you're coming from. I really do. And it's because you're not accustomed to that. When you get comfortable with that, you will sit up and do what you're supposed to do and not even worry about that body lying there. Can you see that? It doesn't matter. See, when there was a lady, and I will call her name because she made it public, that's a lady named Pastor Lindsay. And the doctor had given her up and said that she was going to die. And she had this minister named Catherine Neal to call me. And when she called me, she said, Pastor Lindsay says that they told her that she was going to die tonight, and she's not ready, it's not time yet. And she needs you to come to her. And I said, okay, I'll be there. She said, no. She don't need you to get in your car and come. Just come to her. So the next day, I get a phone call from Pastor Lindsay, somebody who was at a point where she'd been able to talk to him before, saying to me, I thank you for coming to me last night. And I said, I beg your pardon. She said, just as the breath was leaving me, I saw you standing next to my bed, and you said, it's not yet time. Come back. And I came back to my body. And that has happened numerous of times. Now, before you get the idea that I'm like that dude sitting in the temple projecting myself, that is not what happened. My desire was to do whatever it took to help her, right? I did not lay in that bed and say, I'm going. I didn't do that. I went to sleep, and because of my submission to the Creator, He allowed that to happen. Can you see that? That's what happened. I didn't do that by saying I'm going to do it. So I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say I did, because I didn't. Now, would I like to have done that? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I let him come on, sit on the line and touch best on top of his head, hey, girl.
Going back to something you said earlier, and when you said you just simply had a desire, it's not even like you do all this work either, though, because when to that example, when you were talking about going to sleep, and you just have a desire, you know you have to get up in the morning. You don't sit there and think about that all day. You just have a thought, all right, I need to get up at such and such time, and you just go to sleep.
Yeah.
So it's very, very, very simple. In a way.
Actually, it is more difficult. It takes more energy for you not to be who you are.
Yes, because this is not real. This is the illusion that we
And
buy
we
into
fight.
and we feed it, and
We
yes.
fight to hold on to it.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to just saying, you know what, whatever, man. And when we say that, we don't mean that.
No.
Because when we say whatever, man, we still go snot, cry, fight, argue, try to make things happen. You know, don't we?
Yeah.
We do all. We do all of those things, trying to make things happen.
You're right, Pastor.
We always do that, as opposed to saying every time you say, okay, whatever, man. When you get to the point where you get ready to, you know, to cry, to fight, to argue, make a phone call, make something happen, stop. And say, you know what? I said, whatever, man. And that's what it's going to be. That's how you have to train yourself to step back from those times when you would otherwise make it even more difficult to be who you really are. The adage, good things come to those who wait. Is that not, have we not heard that?
Mm-hmm.
Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Good things come to those who wait. What they're waiting on. They're not waiting on the good things. They're waiting on the opportunity to be manifested as the light that they are. That's what you're waiting on. The other thing.
That's not what you told you waiting for.
I know.
You told you waiting for things.
That's right.
You know, house, car, whatever, all these things.
So now the light that we're projecting is the light that we desire to project, rather, does not come from someplace else. If you're waiting for light to come to you for you to project it, you'll always live in darkness. You'll always be confused. Because the light that you ought to project, you're already in. You just have to believe it. A couple of days ago, I was talking to someone, and we were at a meeting. There was 3 of us at the meeting, and we were talking about light projections and how we do things like that. And I said to the person, we are all connected in terms of energy, right? And she said, I don't know. I can believe it, put it hard for me, wrap my mind around it. I said, okay. Put your hand on your heart. Close your eyes and get in the rhythm of it. And when she closed her eyes and got into the rhythm of it, I just closed my eyes and stopped it. She opened her eyes like, my heart floated, then it stopped for a minute. That's what I did to you. That's the projection. We are all connected. And then the other one, she had the other said, you want this? She said,
You could just tap her, you just have to stop her heart. Just tap her on the head or something,
I bet you won't forget it. But the reality of it is that we are all one. We are one. Now, let me back up. The reason 11:11 is so important is because not only does it speak of as above, so as below, but it also represents a gateway to the other realm. If you can see the ones, it represents a gateway to the other realm. And if we can accept that and began to desire to enter that gateway, then we began to see things change in our lives. How many of you sitting in this room are waiting for something in the physical, like job change, check, something to come through for you? It ain't coming.
It makes you scared to say
It ain't coming.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Let me tell you when it's gonna come. It will come when you stop looking for it. Because instead of seeking ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness and to be inherited, you seeking it. Let it go. Let it go as if it doesn't exist. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And I can speak from that because I'm just like you in terms of that. I'm dealing with that myself. And when I talk about things like this, it doesn't mean that, you know, like, I am the Reverend Richard, and you are the congregation peoples. And you people go through these things, but ours don't be doing it. It does not work like that.
We respect you for being honest.
It doesn't work like that. But the moment you do that now, if we can stop looking for things to manifest and desire us to be the manifestation that we were created to be, got it?
Yes.
Then you become a magnet for everything you need. You don't have to ask for it. You don't have to look for it. It just knock on your door and say, "Here I is. I's the one you've been looking for." That's just the way it happens. Now, how many times have you truly given up on something and it happened just like that? Yeah, it's just like that. So why can't we condition ourselves to be that way about everything like Sheldon? Just get in the river and go to sleep. No life jacket, no boat, no paddle. Just go to sleep. If I drown, I drown. That means I'm on the other side. Just go. But then things happen just like that. No.
Why are you using me for example?
Because you are a great example of someone who does not sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
You really are. And I don't want you to feel uneasy or feel self-conscious or, yeah, I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to pretend to be doing it. Yeah. It's just who you are. That's your nature. And I believe that your nature is as such simply because your generation doesn't know what that means.
Nick does it all the time.
Nick, oh my God. Nick is the person that walk up to the water and throw a line in to catch a fish, and there ain't no line, ain't no hook, and he catch a fish. I mean, it
jumps out of the water.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Nick, when he was saying he was talking about one of his dreams.
Yeah.
And he was talking about it just felt good because we could just leave, and so we didn't even have anything we had to take with us. And whereas most people do the opposite of that, I understand Nick on that one.
Because y'all same
Just
people.
leave what?
Leave
stuff.
as in able to go anywhere, as
Yeah.
in you can be in California, and if all of a sudden you needed to stay there for 2 years, you could without even planning for it. Or if all of a sudden you thought you was gonna be there for 2 years, and then the next week you find out you was gonna be in Mexico or
It's okay.
or Europe.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, when we called about Philadelphia, he said, what they say? I said, okay. And that was it. It was no question about, well, I don't know when I'm going to be off. I don't know how I can work out. And he said, I'll call you, let you know what time to pick me up. That was it. So if we can do that, you know, now.
So that means you're gonna stop fussing at me about sleeping in the car?
No. You know, I'm gonna find other stuff else. It like you know, it's not. Now, don't get me wrong. They're not just the only generation. Cause Bob does the same thing. Bob just things are fine. You know, she does the same thing. And I'm saying that the reason we have access to people like this is example. We're examples to each other. We really are. And you know what has stopped us from looking at each other for examples? Jealousy. Jealousy. Always wanting to be like somebody else. Why he always talking about them ain't talking? That's that religious church preacher congregation stuff. Honey, you got on a pretty hat. I had on a hat and he ain't sitting there by mine. You know, that's that crazy stuff, you know, that we got to get rid of. Child, you raised a lot of money there. I raised more money than she did. You know, that's stupid.
Well, you don't do that.
But I talk about people individually.
Yeah, but I'm saying you, and you really helped, I think, all of us on that because of your attitude about it. You don't inject that into the system, into the congregation.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really think about it a little deeper, doing that, it makes absolutely no sense because it's like you are running like away from who you really are and who you're gonna be comfortable like truly being if you're trying to be like someone else. So it's like you going the wrong way.
Well, like when Barbara said, I told her you're going the wrong way. She said, well, I'll just turn around. I mean, that's just the way it is. See, if you're going to be me, who going to be you?
Yeah.
That's true.
The best you can be is yourself. That's the best person you can be, is yourself.
So tell me to stop trying to be me.
He might think he can be a better you.
You're over there.
Maybe you're just allowing it for me to be more comfortable of being myself.
Yeah, okay. There you go. See? Maybe I can't win.
Now I can use my smart mouth and not feel guilty about it.
Because it's my fault, right?
It's not your fault. You just make me comfortable being myself.
Oh, okay. Okay, now let's back up.
That's a good fix up, Sheldon.
All the stuff that we've talked about, all the things that we have discussed today, every bit of it comes back to one thing: energy. Masculine and feminine energy, which is translated in the scriptures as life. Life force, life edification. That's what all of it comes back to. So if we are to at some point manifest who we are, we have to move beyond my wife, my husband, my girlfriend, my boyfriend, my daughter, my son, my uncle, my aunt, and begin to see life force energy. I must see that Evelyn represents a portion of feminine energy that Janice doesn't. But when we bring them together, it forms the whole. Can you see that? Let me give you a classic example of what I'm talking everyone on the face of the earth have the same thoughts. The same words are in everyone on the face of the earth. I may say book in English, kitabu in Swahili, libro in Spanish. All of them are books, right? All of us have the same words. The thing that makes us different, not individuals. I did not use the word individual. The thing that makes us different is how we combinate those words to form a thought. Can you see that? Every one of us have in us the word I, the word love, the word you, the word hate, the word dislike. We have that, right? I can take those words and say, I like you, I love you, I hate you, I dislike you. Anybody else can take those same words and do the same with them. Right? Now, the thing that moves us from being different in a chaotic way is when each one of us desire to take those words and combinate those words into a thought that brings about enhancement for mankind. Instead of saying, I hate you, you use the word, I love you. You see? So it's all in how you combinate those words. And if Janice says to me, she hates me, then it is not for me to be angry with Janice. It's not for me to get on the phone and talk about how can she be a Christian and hate me. The Lord doesn't love that. It's not for me to do that. It's for me to do an introspection and ask myself, what is it about me that she hates? If I cannot find what it is, then it is incumbent upon me to ask her, why do you hate me? And when she says why she hates me, even though I may not see it, that's her reality. I have to deal with that. So the problem is mine, not hers. Can you see it? Come on. Bring it. I'm worse than bring it on.
You are talking to me, aren't you?
Yeah.
I don't want to talk out of turn. I want to raise my hand.
Since when?
Why is it your problem if she hates you? Isn't it something that within? Because
that's why it's my problem.
But she did. Maybe I missed what you were saying. But then you said she hated you.
Yeah.
So isn't she the one not with the problem instead of you?
I have to deal with my problem before she can deal with hers.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I mean, if we think about it from the perspective of she has to fix that problem, then we never fix ourselves. And everyone's walking around thinking, oh, the other person needs to fix that problem. But if you look at it from the perspective of, I have to deal with it, and we all look at it that way, then we fix our ish, and we can, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We can move on.
Okay. Let me bring it up. If Janice hates me, I got you, D. And I go to Janice, and I say, okay, why do you hate me?
Right.
And she says, I hate you because you handsome.
So you gonna go and make yourself ugly?
Now, I say, okay, why does she hate me because I'm handsome, right? Then it may very well be she hates me because I'm handsome and I don't give her any attention. What kind of attention do I give her? It could very well be that I talk to everybody in this room except her, or she perceives it that way. So what I do now is make it a point not only to speak to her, but also to talk to her, to spend time with her. There is everyone on the face of the earth who hates anyone has a perceived reason for doing it. And that perceived reason for doing it will kill you if the person being hated doesn't deal with it. The only way they don't deal with it is because they don't know it. When Jesus said, you cannot be my servant unless you hate your father and your mother, what was he talking about? Can you see that? What was he talking about? The terms that we use for hate, let me put it this way. None of the terms that we use that we perceive to be negative are designed to remain negative. It is we who transform them into something positive. All right, Diane.
Okay, I'm going back. You broke it down. You maybe the first grade could understand. But where I'm at is, okay, say everyone in this room hated me based on what you just said. So I got to deal with the hate that everybody's throwing at me and with this whole lot of hate. It's a whole lot to deal with. Okay, but say his reason for hating me is because he has self-esteem issues within him. When he sees me, oh, I hate her because she thinks she's all that. Not knowing that self-esteem issues that you got, I once had, but I worked on it. Instead of hating another person, I worked on my issues. So I'm trying to balance or see in my mind the getting back to deal with until I deal with the reason he's hating me.
Okay.
Because that's dealing with, okay, say like I'm saying, if I'm saying 50 people.
I got you, babe.
Then I'm sitting here have to deal with individually me for all 50, but it's 50 different issues.
Now, all I'm saying is this. If you don't know why all the rest of these folk hate you, you can't deal with it. Because you don't know. But you know why he hates you. So if he hates you because you think you all of that in a bag of chips, then what you need to do is talk to him about that. Because once he gets to know you, he will find out he really hates. No, he will find.
He really hates He ain't hate me. He just want that Pepsi.
Once he gets to know you, he will find out that you're somebody totally different. Now that was an easy one because I've been on the road.
Yeah.
Now I had this pastor who I was teaching in my class, well, preacher, when I was doing a huge class in association, and I was teaching the class, and he told me that he could not stand me. And I asked why. And he said to me, told me that, what he had heard about me. But he had come to see that I'm a totally different person. And all of that was wrong. The way that happened was not by him telling me he hated me. I could tell by his questions in class he didn't like me. So I also knew that he had a problem understanding the questions when I gave a test. So what I did, I went to him after class and said to him, I'm not going to give you a written test. Class starts at 6. Meet me here at 5. I'm going to give you a verbal test, and that's what I'm going to grade you on, because you can say it much easier than you could write it. Now, I could have just easily said you can't spell all other stuff, but I didn't do that. When I gave that man that verbal test, it changed his whole attitude towards me because he had been told that I didn't like people who could not read well. I didn't like unintelligent. You see what I'm talking about? Okay. That's why he didn't like me.
But that's being, okay, I understand that 'cause when you were talking even earlier, I can see if I hate being put on a perspective, which a lot of people we get because someone has come and said something, a formed opinion based on what other people say. Okay, been down that road, got that. But I'm going to come to a scenario maybe if all 25 people in the room, the hate is real, and there's 25 different reasons. So I'm clarity on the dealing with the 25 different reasons.
Well, how do you know 25 different people hate you?
Racism.
I'm going in a minute.
Okay.
How do you know, I'll deal with that in a minute. How do you know 25 different people hate you?
Let's narrow down to 10 if they say. I'm keeping it real, because
It's all
with
what
25,
she's perceiving.
it's
No, that's
25.
what it is.
No, I'm not perceiving. I'm putting it out there. If you ask the question, I could have answered. I've had 25 people say they hate me. Fine. Move on.
Okay, if 25 people in that room say they hate, if everybody in this room right now say we hate you, then my next response would be, okay, listen up. We are not going to leave this room until we get this cleared up. Now, if your hate for me is something deeply personal, we need to do a one-on-one. But if you feel comfortable about telling me how the reason you hate me in front of everyone else, it'd be a lot easier for us to deal with it. So let's talk about it. That's how I would approach
Thank
it.
you. I see it. Yeah,
Okay.
because it's not
But
perceiving
why?
me.
And the reason I would approach it like that is because if you leave here hating me, and I know you do, I left you in bondage. You are in religious incarceration without knowing it, and that's dangerous. Now, racism is about collective hate, and the way you deal with collective hate is by dealing with collective love. It is obvious that there are people who are involved in the political system who would love for people of color to starve to death or be non-existent. That's none. But the ones with whom you come in contact on an individual basis, you must deal with them not the way they deal with you, but the way that you are supposed to deal with them, through love and kindness. Because love covers a multitude of entanglements. Not only does love cover those entanglements, love untangles them. You must deal with that. And when you deal with that, because it's collective, then it begins to enter into the collective mindset. Right now, there are those, for example, in my class on Monday, there were some people who came out of a Southern Baptist setting. And I don't see those people as being there for themselves personally. They represent a culture. And when I can get them to see what's in the book, then what they are receiving begins to filter into that macro culture. And that's how you begin to see things change. No differently than a slang word that's put out there in New York ends up in Los Angeles next week, and nobody sent an email saying this is what we go say. You know, that's how it works. We are so intricately connected. Another example, clock falls out of a second story window, and Malika jumps up in bed at night. Something wrong with my baby. How did she know that? We call it intuition. It is not intuition. It is that the fear, the pain, the desire for mama crossed the mind matrix and woke her up. That's what she experienced. That is not just prevalent to females. Males have it too, but we so doggone masculine until we shut it down. We don't want to cry. We don't want to express any compassion. We don't. You see what I'm talking about? So we shut that emotion down so we don't feel it. We don't experience it. And I am saying to you that just like that thing we call intuition crosses the matrix of the mind, everything travels through the matrix of the mind. You just have to be sensitive to it. And our sensitivity is blocked because of the distractions that we talked about earlier. Those distractions become walls. They become barriers to our sensitivities. And our false intellect becomes denials. because we say that that's coincidence, or that's not really happening when we think things, rather than explore the reason we're thinking them and following them through. Can you see that?
Yes.
We do feel things. It was that if one of the kids called me and say, hello, I know something wrong. Now it's more than them. It's a lot of people. Well, if you call me and say, I say hello, you say, hello, I know something is wrong. I can feel it. Why can I feel it? You didn't tell me, your voice didn't change, I felt it. That's the matrix of the mind.
Okay, so why when the tables turn and one of us do that to you, you be in the denial state? You ain't nothing wrong.
Because I don't want to burden you with things that your shoulders are not capable of carrying.
Oh, wow. Excuse me. Oh, wise one. You can carry the world and nobody else ain't heard that. Ooh, church out, let's go.
I want to make a statement about, we were talking about the racism thing, and most of you know what I went through, where I'm employed now. And I did think that the deputy director hated me, or she was racist toward me. But I come to find out that she had spoken to someone else about a vacancy at the department so they could hire me. And the girl told me that she's told her, I want you to find Evelyn a position because Evelyn is a hard worker and she needs benefits. Now this is the same lady that y'all heard me wanted. Mm-hmm. She said that about me. Now if she was lying, I don't care. But that's what she told this other lady.
What you have just described is a reason that we cannot take things at face value and respond to them. We must learn to respond to things the way they should be, as opposed to the way they appear.
Right.
You got that?
Mm-hmm.
When Strom Thurmond was the senator, he would stand up and rail against black folk, especially in the early 60s. And when I was at the University of South Carolina at Spartanburg, Strom Thurmond came to speak. And they had a forum, he and Lee Atwater. I began to ask him questions. After the forum, he sent Lee Atwater to get me. He asked me to work for him. And I said to him, I can't do that. Because if I work for you, when I finish, white folk not gonna want me, black folk not gonna trust me. He said to me, if you become a part of my team, you will make so much money till you won't give a damn. And I said, I can't do it. It was Lee Atwater and I was supposed to be the black Lee Atwater. Phoebe will tell you, they constantly call the house trying to get me to do that. Why is it that I would not do that? The reason I wouldn't do that is because I did not want the perception of the people that I was trying to lead to be that I sold them out. But at the same time, I knew that regardless of what Strom Thurmond was saying, he kept, what's that school in Sumter? Morris College, he kept it open. When Morris needed the money to get the library and they couldn't raise the matching funds, he went to another portion of the government and gave it to them so they could match it. He kept State open, he kept Benedict open, but he never made it public. You see what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So it might be the same system with her. She had to do what she did out there. But at the same time, you was wondering if I'm going to have to owe this woman something. Promise you, you won't. Okay? So I'm saying to you that had I known then what I understand now, things would have probably been different. Now don't get me wrong, I'm glad that they were not different. I'm glad I did not know what I know now, because if I had it, I wouldn't be sitting here. Mm-hmm. We'd be on the island somewhere have the ball. But we must deal with racism the same way we deal with our children. When your children upset you, you might wish that you could go back to the day before you conceived them so you can change your mind. But after it's over with, you will take that in the world for them. You see what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So if we deal with other issues like that, then we will be less inclined to walk around disliking, distrusting, not wanting to see people. Can you see that?
Yes.
So we have to deal with it totally differently than we have dealt with it in the past.
Can I read something out of here?
Of course.
Will you introduce who Rumi is? Because you know more than I do.
Rumi is a 12th century, 11th century, because in 1200s, right? Yeah, 11th century Sufi who lived in Turkey, and he's a Muslim. But there were Muslims, there were rabbis and Christian, every religion in the world, top leadership came to him for advice. And much of what he saw, he wrote down in verse of poems for the most part. And he is still considered one of the most enlightened minds to ever live on the face of the earth.
Can I ask a question for you? What's the difference between what is a Sufi?
Sufi.
Sufi.
Sufi and the Sage are the same thing, it's just different religions. They are highly initiated holy men. Okay, or men of enlightenment, I should say.
This is entitled Planting Gardens. It says, if you speak well of another, the good will return to you. The good and praise you speak of another, you speak in reality of yourself. An analogy would be the planting of flowers and herbs around your house. Every time you look out, you see that garden. If you accustom yourself to speaking well of others, you are always in the garden of paradise. When you do good for someone else, you become a friend to him, and whenever he thinks of you, he will think of you as a friend. And thinking of a friend is as restful and refreshing as a flower garden. When you speak negatively of someone else, you become repulsive in his sight, so that whenever he thinks of you, he will imagine a poisonous snake, or a scorpion, or sharp thorns and thistles. Now, if you could look at flowers in a garden day and night, why would you wander among thorns and snakes? Love everyone, so that you may always dwell among the flowers in the garden. If you hate everybody, imagining enemies everywhere, it is as though day and night you wander about among thorns and poisonous snakes. That is why the saints love everyone and always think well of people.
And that speaks totally to seeing yourself as the victim. Always seeing enemies everywhere. That's victimology.
It's a miserable way to live.
It totally miserable. And that's why it is easier. It's less energy for you to be who you are than if you struggle not to be. I read something also, Janice, and when you read about the flowers and stuff, it came back to me. Live like the hummingbird. The hummingbird only nourishes from sweet nectar, not bitterness, not anger, not consternation, just sweet nectar. And if we can remember that, no matter what's brought to you, it doesn't mean you have to eat it. It doesn't mean you have to ingest it. It doesn't mean you have to accept it. But suppose someone brought to you something extremely bitter and you put sugar in it. How many times have you bought food and it had a bitter taste and you sweeten it? Do the same thing with attitudes. Do the same thing with words that are spoken to you. You don't have to accept bitterness. Because when you accept bitterness, you become bitter. I'm going to say this, and it affects a lot of people in this room. And I know it affects, well, it doesn't now, it used to. I thought about that. But it affects a lot of people in this room. The one thing that you're going to have to learn to deal with among many is when you come in contact with people in the public, who don't give a rat's butt about hurting your feelings. Whether it be a cashier who has a nasty attitude, or someone who cuts you off in traffic, or someone who says something to you that they have no, what you feel they have no right to say. When we began to rise above that, these things will stop happening. Only when we stop responding to them, they will stop happening. Right now, I have less people to cut me off in traffic than I ever had in my life. Because when they do it, the first thing that now comes to my mind is maybe they're in a hurry to get someplace. Hope they make it. As opposed to, expletive. Lord bless them. That's how we have to change. Or a cashier, rather than saying, because the attitude, well, how are you today? I don't say that anymore. I say, I hope you have a great day. Or I say, how you doing? Most people have a sour face because they're dealing with something. You're making $8.50 an hour, and your car is on E. Your baby needs some milk. Your daddy ain't supporting the child, and your rent is due. You don't know what people are going through. A simple remark to them can help. I mean, I've been in stores. I studied in Walmart, and this lady paid with her little Eat Better Today card. Mm-hmm. And she didn't have enough money on it to buy everything. And she was getting ready to go through stuff to take, and it was obvious she had kids, from a grocery. And she's trying to decide what she was going to put back. And I asked the lady, what's the difference? And she told me, and I told the lady, go ahead. That's how we have to do things. I don't have a lot of money, but I have what I need.
And you had enough for her?
Yeah. And I it breaks my heart to see people have to pick and choose simply because other people are greedy. So those are the kinds of things. Now, what she did with that she play it forward? That's between her and the Creator. But I do know one thing. When she got home, she had everything that she needed. Because had she not needed it, she wouldn't put it in that bucket. And it wasn't no things where they got all this stuff that they shouldn't have. This lady had necessities. So, anyway, that's where I am with that. Be who you are created to be. Desire to be a projected manifestation of righteousness.
What you said today reminds me of the fact that everything that happens to us, whether it's someone that hates us or someone that loves us, whatever the situation is, good or bad, it's part of like a personal laboratory that's designed to help us move forward. And we can't just pick and choose which ones are not a coincidence. Right. Like all of it is a purpose, every single bit of it.
And see, Janice, that's the tapestry that our lives weave throughout the universe. And every time that we refuse to do that, that's representative of a moth having eaten a hole in the tapestry. And now it has to be repaired. Will it be repaired by you, or will someone else have to repair it? But repair it must be. So keep in mind that you are not just a needle, you are also the thread. And one thread of tapestry does not make. It takes several threads and several needle points. That's who we are. We are weaving this tapestry. And by virtue of who we are, the more sensitive you become to that, the more pain from other people you will begin to experience. And it won't be experienced in a way that is debilitated, but it would be experienced in a way that it would bring compassion to you, a desire to reach out, a desire to move forward, a desire to do something, if not for them, for someone else. Because it is never, ever for you. It isn't. It is never for you. It is always for someone else. Guess what? The tapestry can't see itself. It's not woven to show itself its beauty. It's woven to show others the beauty of it all. Isn't it? That's who we are. In conclusion, and you probably can speak better to this than I, the galactic, the galactic period that we're living in is experiencing a total alignment, planetary alignment. Everything, and see, we focus so much on the planetary alignment until we lose focus that the whole universe is shifting. There's activity in the entire universe. And even scientists are beginning to recognize that what was termed as wormholes that swallow light are actually passageways or gateways to other dimensions. And access to those dimensions are becoming more and more available. But the prevalence of our usage of them is tied to our desire to be who we are. And whether we accept it or not, it's here. Change is here. The most difficult thing to do is to change, because we want to hold on to our contradictions and creations until we die. I'll hold on to them until my cold dead fingers be pried away from it. That's how much we want to hold on to this stuff. But this idea of energy shifts and fluctuations is here. There's no denying it. There's no turning it back. The only thing that we can do is embrace it and don't be loving. Don't love anybody. Become love.
I just wanted to share something, because it's funny that I came here today, because y'all know that we come here on Saturday. But, and y'all talking about hate, because this week one of my clients actually called me a nigger, and she said she liked everybody except for that nigga that came in here. And y'all know me. I would have made a point to go back and see her. But I decided, from a business standpoint, to hand her off to a white social worker. Because for me, her ignorance is not that important. She died. She has chosen her death now, which is not going to be pretty because of her hate for a group of people that she knows nothing about. And her family's going to suffer because now they get a social worker who doesn't care as much as I do, just because she hates me because of the color of my skin. And it was funny because she told somebody that was not American, and it totally blew them away because they didn't understand why she don't like me because I'm black. And they were really shocked. She thinks the lady is white, but she's Brazilian. And they were really shocked at her ignorance and like, why would she not like you because you're black? And it's hard to explain racism to somebody who has no real concept of racism, which I guess, it's weird because I don't know what's going on, because when Clark and I went to the doctor the other day, I asked this lady if she didn't mind moving. Her car was kind of in the parking space I was trying to get into, and she totally went off on me. And I didn't get out the car and whoop her ass. So that's a big step for me. Because y'all know, I think I was on the phone with Sheldon one day when I hopped out my car at somebody. So, I mean, that's not beyond, I guess it is beyond me now. But I was like, what the heck is going on that, you know, I keep getting challenged by all these people for no good reason. And I mean, I told her, I said, I'm sorry you're having a bad day. She was talking about her yelling kid. Sweet, I don't hear your child yelling. I just want you out of parking space. I was just trying to be nice. But, I mean, it's like, what is really going on that people are getting that bold?
With you, personally, it happened because it's something for you to deal with. Like you said, with children, right? Now it happened, you can see that it's being corrected. Got it? Overall, it's happening because the macro mind is in a state of flux. It's chaotic. It's confusion that's taking place. People are frustrated. They think they're frustrated at the economy, but they're frustrated because they don't know who they are. They don't know how to handle things. That's where the frustration comes from. Something else dawned on me, and I know it's not about me. But you corrected something I did years ago.
I'm not abandoned man.
You remember?
Oh, I never forget that.
What was that?
Yeah, tell the whole room.
No.
Not that time.
Not just to can't take on the bird.
Oh, that was many, many years ago.
It was when I worked at the hospital, that lady called my name. And I poured a pitcher of water on her.
It's a housewife thing.
And walked out of the room, and the daughter said, you wait till my husband get here. He gonna whoop you. And when the husband came, he would do it. And I said, this the hobo you brought to hit me? And I had a full syringe of isopropyl in my pocket. And the policeman showed up and just put him out the hospital. So that's something that I should not have done. So in that regard, it's correction. And it may not just be correction for James Richard, it's correction for other people who has done the same thing. But that's just an example I remembered when you were saying pretty much the same kind of thing. Rather than me walking away from it, I feel compelled, to react to it.
Well, I actually prayed for that lady who went off on me about being in my parking space.
Yeah.
Because, Clark was like, why is she crying? I said, because when people cry in public, they're going through something. That lady's not mad at me. She's going through, she did move her car, after a bunch of lip. And, which she was a soccer mom looking lady and a nice Lexus. So I was shocked that she came out her mouth at me wrong. But, whatever. But I felt compelled to pray for her because that lady going through something. She may look like she got the perfect life, but she got some hell in her world.
It might have been where she was because she didn't want to leave her Lexus at home to be picked up by the repo man.
At the doctor's office?
Yeah, you don't know. You don't know what people are going through. And again, all of these, what Monica described, I think one of the reasons you're here also is because every one of you in this room are going to be faced situations like that in this coming week.
Great.
So you're going to have to begin dealing with them because nothing brings balance better than facing anger with peace, hatred with love. You have to remain calm and deal with things in a manner that is reflective of who you were created to be, not who you have become. Of who you were created to be, not who you have become. Because there are a lot of things that that people come with you with attitude, but if you just take a breath, step back from it, the Creator will handle it. Vengeance is mine, says not God, the Lord.
You also be surprised how many times you have that opportunity to change their day for the better as well. So it's almost like you are their liberator, so to speak, when you were talking about you are accountable to people, like it's almost your responsibility to set them free.
Yeah, and that's what you do. It's like when I say the Lord, I'm talking about the Father. Vengeance belongs to the Father, not to Elohim, not to you. It belongs to the Father. So why does it say that? And I know I'm supposed to be finished, but
You keep saying in conclusion.
but why does it say that? Why is vengeance the Lord and not yours, not ours? Why does it say that? Because you got enough issues to get straightened out. You don't have time to be running around trying to seek vengeance for everything someone else does to you. Deal with what you've done to yourself. Deal with all the stuff that you have done to you and blame everybody at work. All the stuff you do to yourself, and then you bust up in here or some other place or go home and talk about, well, these folk at work go to this church and they don't know God. No, you. Leave them folk alone and deal with who you are. Because I guarantee you, if you spend the time dealing with your issues, you don't have time to deal with anyone else's. Mind your own business. Now keep in mind, I'm not the one to mind my own business. I have to mind yours too.
Yeah, because I need you.
That's where I'm going. When you call me, or when I feel it, that's necessary for me to do that, because this is what happens. It is not your business or my business. I am the covering. So all of it is mine. Every bit of it is mine. Because I could not cover you if that thread of who I am was not interwoven in you. That's just who I am. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
I have never come in contact with anyone who I have ever taught in my entire life who did not say to me, I think about you all the time. Or something that came up and I thought about what you said. That's being effective. I don't want nobody to go somewhere and talk about, man, we had a good service today. Well, what did he say? Boy, you should have heard. What did he say? Yeah, Lord. You should have heard. I don't want that. I want somebody to say that, I was getting ready to do da-da-da-da, and I heard that voice, or I felt that I shouldn't, or this happened, or that happened. That's what I want. Why? Because that's how we change.
Yes.
That's how we change. Barbara Jean, talk to me.
What?
The doors of the church is ready to be closed.
Not yet. There's something else I got to say that relates to her.
Oh, you have to say that relates to me.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
We're going to, I don't like the term list. We're going to present directions, something like this maybe. And all of the teachers are coming together. And we're going to discuss it. And our desires are going to be projected for each one of those things that we talk about. Not our desires being projected in that we want Conan to be found tomorrow, not that kind of projection. Our projections will be enlightenment for mankind. But, and I don't mean generalities in terms of we don't know what we want. We'll narrow it down when we get together. I also believe that, I feel strongly rather that we, meaning teachers of course, and others are definitely invited, the program teachers, need to sit down periodically up until December at least and have these kinds of discussions. They don't have to be overnight. They don't have to be overnight. But things are at such a state now until they are crying out for divine intervention. Just let me be frank. There is an increase in people who are so desperate until they are sowing seeds to buy a bus so that God will bless them. Or they are sowing seeds in a ministry because they want to be healed. They are going to mystics who are no more than palm readers and 8-ball shakers, They're buying amethysts and crystals and rocks and stuff. They're doing these things, and they're not doing it because they think it's right. They're doing it because they don't know what else to do. They're desperate. And this requires a divine response. And the divine response is this. The only reason this bottle has any power is because I gave it to it. And if I gave this bottle the power, then I am more powerful than the bottle. Am I not? And if you and I are the same, then this bottle can bring no power to you either. Because you are more powerful than it. I remember when I learned how to make holy water the way Moses did it in the desert. And it was something I've never told anybody how to do because I didn't want people selling it. And when I used it, it worked. And I asked myself, why did it work? And for years, I didn't understand it. And the reason it worked is because in order for me to make it, I had to take that water and quote unquote bless it. In other words, infuse power into it. And the other element that goes in it, the same thing. Mix it together and do the same again. That's what made it work. Then it dawned on me, you didn't need the water. You're the power that makes it work. You are the dynamo. You don't need that. You are the power. I'm saying to us today, accept that you are the power. Accept that there is no imperfection in you whatsoever. And the you of whom I'm speaking is not your being human. I'm talking about your desire to stop being human and be the divine that you were created to be, the image that you were created to be. There's no imperfection in the image that you were created to be. Accept that. Accept the righteousness of your being. Accept that intellect can be a barrier to spiritual revelation if you allow it to. Accept that leadership is who you are, and leadership always takes responsibilities for not only its actions, but for the actions of the one it's leading. The buck stops here. Accept those things about you. Remember who you are, especially in the darkest of times. And I promise you, if you remember who you are in the darkest of times, you will experience the brightest of lights. Because you will see who you are. In the darkest of time, that's not who you are. That's the confusion that you need to transform. And when you think about who you are, when you meditate on who you are, when you embrace who you are, that's when that light will manifest. And putting together this forum, for lack of a better term, or shall I say created this opportunity for us to come together and stop talking about being the tip of the spear, but be the tip of the spear and pierce the darkness purposely. Not pierce it in different places, but being together and making it our purpose to pierce the darkness, making it our purpose to boldly step into the Holy of Holies and tear the curtain from top to bottom, open the Ark of the Covenant, and realize that we are the curtain that has been torn. We are the Ark that's been opened, and we are everything in it, and there is nothing that exists without us, and we are everything that exists. That's what I'm talking about. And I'm asking you to facilitate that. You told me to talk. Okay. And I'm glad you said okay. Everybody would be wrong. Because with everyone I've spoken concerning this, I mean, it's across the board. You the one to facilitate this, to help us to see, to take this unshapen flint and shape it into the point that it is supposed to be, and attach it to the spear of righteousness, and throw it into the midst of the darkness, so that the black hole can become a light of holiness. That's it. That's it. And we're talking about soon, and very soon, we're going to see the king. We are talking about soon, because I believe that there's limited time for us to come together and lay the true foundation. Well, I actually began to build the walls because the foundation is there. Begin to build the walls so that what comes in 2012, the 21st, we are able to not only contain it, but allow it to push us further in the road. I believe that. Any questions? Okay. Janice and others have made the comment that since we came out of Philly, there's a different connection that we feel, and it feels more intimate. Our connection, the bond is different than what it was before we went to Philly. Okay, that's it. Okay, there, Betty, good to see you.
Bring me back.
Thank you. Good to have you back. Okay, Walker Jean.
The light of the truth that we are, and the truth of the light that we are, gives us to know with certainty that we are the manifested breath of life that delivers from and that provides everything that's needed for mankind.
Last thing. Last thing is this. The thing that Molly related is good. And what brings to me also is that our lives should be lived so that you don't have to reach back 10 years for something that happened. You know how I could talk about what happened at that Christmas I bought those older people that meal. That's one thing. But there should be other things happening in your life, that's constantly happening, that you can make reference to, which points to the way your life is beginning to change. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's why things keep happening constantly. Okay. Broadcast and telephone people, thank you. And we're out.